ค Assalamualaikum and welcome to everyone joining us online for #Bebas Cartel 10 years anniversary celebration 2021, new insight of Malaysian Competition Commission Act, MyCC. I'm Zahir Kelvin Ong Abdullah, your MC for today. A very special welcome joining us online as well, Yang Berhormat Datuk Sri Alexander Nantalinggi, Minister of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, MyCC Chairman, Datuk Sri Muhammad Hishamuddin Muhammad Yunus, and Encik Iskandar Ismail, CEO of MyCC. Ladies and gentlemen, today marks a very special occasion of MyCC's 10-year anniversary, and here is a quick recap of MyCC's role. MyCC is an independent body established under the Competition Commission Act 2010 to enforce the Competition Act 2010. Its main role is to protect the competitive process for the benefit of businesses, consumers, and the economy. MyCC is an agency under the Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Ministry. We have a packed and lively session today to celebrate MyCC's 10th anniversary. Coming right up after this will be the welcoming address by MyCC's chairman, Datuk Sri Muhammad Hishamuddin Muhammad Yunus, which will be followed by the opening speech and launching of the new face of MyCC by Yang Berhormat Datuk Sri Alexander Nantalinggi, Minister of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs. But first, before we begin the event proper, may I invite Muhammad Hasbullah Muhammad Fauzi, Senior Assistant Director of the Investigation and Enforcement Division at MyCC, for the Doa recitation and blessings.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. We express our gratitude to you. With your mercy and protection, we are able to attend physically and virtually the event of #Bebas Kartel 10 years anniversary celebration 2021, New Insight of MyCC. Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Fattahu, Ya Alim. You are the witness of our hardship and struggle, blood, tears and sweat that we are facing throughout these years to carry out our responsibility and duty for the Ummah without fear and favor, and to fight against the economic injustice and oppression that harm the welfare of the Ummah. Allahumma hdina siratakal mustaqim. O Allah, the one who is the creator of space and time, the one who knows the past, present and future, enlighten our heart with your wisdom, shower our unity with your blessing, protect our dignity from the evil eye, guide us in this challenging journey to seek for the truth and justice for the betterment of this nation and benefits to the humanity. May our existence become a significant means for the nation to continuously prosper today and tomorrow, embracing your words, Fastabikul khairat, strive as in a race in good deeds. Ya Zal Jalali wal Ikram. Give us strength and patience to face this current pandemic. May your protection always with us to keep us in a safe and healthy condition so that we can continuously contribute to this nation, dedicating our life for your sake. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and a very good afternoon. Yang berhormat Datuk Seri Alexander Nantalinggi, Minister of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, Yang Berusaha Encik Iskandar Ismail, Chief Executive Officer of the Malaysia Competition Commission, MyCC, distinguished guests, officers of MyCC, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the celebration of MyCC's 10th anniversary and the launching of MyCC's new image. It is a pleasure to visually be with you all here today. I pray that all of you are in good health and spirit. I am pleased to be here today to witness yet another milestone achieved by MyCC. To all our distinguished guests and participants, I really appreciate and are deeply thankful for your presence at this event. You can't imagine how gratifying it is to me and my colleagues at the Commission to host this event for the people. 10 years ago today, the Competition Act was enacted. We in MyCC thought that we could not let such an anniversary pass without a celebration, despite of not being able to conduct such major event physically. MyCC was established on 1st of April 2011 for the purpose of enforcing the Competition Act 2010. Since then, the MyCC has been entrusted by the government of Malaysia to safeguard the process of free and fair competition in commercial markets for the benefit of consumer welfare, efficiency of enterprises, and the development of the economy as a whole. Ladies and gentlemen, ever since its establishment, MyCC had continuously been promoting and upholding competition law in the country that many have now took notice of its importance and function, especially regarding the ways in which competition may benefit consumers in the market and economy of Malaysia. Since the past 10 years, MyCC has demonstrated great dedication and commitment in being the competition watchdog and champion. Up until today, the Commission had issued more than 19 enforcement decisions, 59 policy advices, conducted more than 306 advocacy programs, and published 7 guidelines on competition law. Soon, MyCC will also be launching its market review report, which is the market review on the transportation sector. I would like to take this opportunity to encourage everyone that is here today to read the market reviews that MyCC had published. The 6 market reviews that have been completed on the various industries will definitely help you in understanding and determining any feature in the market that prevents, restricts, or distorts the competition in the market. May I take this opportunity to share some examples of the enormous amount of work being done. Just recently, MyCC has issued a decision against DagangNet for abusing its dominant position by engaging in exclusive dealing. Before DagangNet, we also issued one final decision against the General Insurance Association of Malaysia and its 22 members for being parties to an anti-competitive agreement. These 2 cases incurred the imposition of more than RM 140 million in financial penalties. Additionally, last year alone, MyCC has issued 2 proposed decisions against 7 warehouse operators and ferry operators respectively. Ladies and gentlemen, we at MyCC want to express our utmost gratitude to all government agencies, the business communities, legal practitioners, MOU partners, academicians, students, and not forgetting the consumers and our comrades all over the world that have helped and supported MyCC to build its name and to stand where we are today. The numerous collaborations between MyCC and all these stakeholders have served as an ideal platform to exchange ideas, best practices, and experiences. We hope that the cooperation and the relationship will continue the collaborations further into greater heights. Allow me to take this opportunity to express my utmost gratitude to our Minister, the Honorable Datuk Seri Alexander Nantalinggi, who will be gracing today's momentous occasion. Yang Berhormat Menteri, thank you for your support and trust in MyCC. With your support and guidance, MyCC, together with the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, will grow and continue to work harder than ever towards our goals in protecting the process of competition and interests of consumers. I would like also to thank the Deputy Minister, Yang Berhormat Datuk Rasul, and Secretary General, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Seri Haji Hasnul Zamzam and his team for their contribution and support. Ladies and gentlemen, to commemorate this special day, we thought it would be fitting to introduce our logo, refined and enhanced, that represents our strength and work value. The introduction of this improved logo is aimed to reflect our mission to ensure a conducive competition culture to make markets work well for consumers, businesses, and the economy. Moving forward, MyCC hopes that it will be known as the trusted authority in protecting the process of competition so that consumers and businesses will benefit from the bolstered efficiency, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Ladies and gentlemen, before I end my speech, I would like to thank the young and energetic team in MyCC for their efforts and contributions, not only to hold this special event for MyCC, but also their endless and tireless contributions towards the promotion of competition laws in Malaysia. Thank you once again to all who are present in this celebration, and I hope the roundtable discussion later will be fruitful and eventful to all.
Thank you, our esteemed MC. A very good day to you all. Yang Berhormat Datuk Russel Wahid, Deputy Minister of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs. Yang berbahagia Datuk Sri Haji Hasno Zamzam, the Secretary General of the Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs. Yang berbahagia Datuk Sri Muhammad Hishamuddin Muhammad Yunus, the Chairman of the Malaysia Competition Commission. Yang berusaha, Encik Iskandar Ismail, the Chief Executive Officer of the Malaysia Competition Commission. Distinguished guests, officers of the Malaysia Competition Commission, ladies and gentlemen. A good evening to you all. First and foremost, I'd like to start by saying how pleased I am to virtually be here today to congratulate the Malaysia Competition Commission for the 10th-year anniversary and on launching of their newly improved logo. This is a testament to MyCC's commitment of not only keeping their image fresh in the people's minds, but also in showing their commitment in protecting the process of competition for the interests of consumers, businesses, and the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, MyCC was established on this very day, on the 1st of April in the year 2011, tasked to enforce the Competition Act 2010 in order to protect and promote the process of competition in Malaysia. Despite being the youngest agency under the ministry, it can clearly be seen that MyCC has grown and evolved tremendously over time. You might have seen the high-profile cases that were handled by MyCC on the news, such as the imposition of penalty on both MS and AirAsia, as well as the issuance of a proposed decision against Grab for an alleged act of abusing the dominant position. Last year, MyCC also issued a final decision against the General Insurance Association of Malaysia and its 22 members for entering into an anti-competitive agreement. The latest one is the case against DagangNet, which made headlines for abusing their dominant position by engaging in exclusive dealings. By the issuance of these decisions, MyCC has sent a strong message that anti-competitive practices will not be tolerated, and stern actions, including imposition of financial penalties, will be taken against those indulge in anti-competitive behavior. Ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to extend my congratulations to the young and vibrant officers under the leadership of Yang Berbahagia Dato Sri Muhammad Hishamuddin Muhammad Yunus, the chairman of MyCC, and also Mr. Iskandar Ismail, the chief executive officer of MyCC. Despite the challenges, they still continue to deliver great work to the Commission. And I have no doubt that both of them will continue to build on this impressive body of work. And I can assure you all that they will have our full support moving forward. MyCC has proven that they have what it takes to be the trusted authority in protecting the process of competition and handle high-profile cases. The Ministry, along MyCC, are committed in ensuring that the process of competition in Malaysia is safe from harmful behaviors. In the year 2020, MyCC has also launched the market review on wholesale and retail industry, despite the calamity caused by the pandemic. The study aims to identify issues, challenges, and propose recommendations to overcome market efficiency, which would directly and indirectly affect the cost of living of the rakyat. As a result, from this market review, the suggestion made by the MyCC prompted the government to prioritize digitalization of trade, which proved that MyCC's recommendation is spot on. Also, MyCC has been tasked to review existing policies and competition laws to facilitate digital economy growth under the Malaysian Digital Economy Blueprint, also known as MyDigital, launched on 19 February 2021. This blueprint is a national initiative in which the government aspires to transform Malaysia into a digitally driven high-income nation and a regional leader in the digital economy. By embracing digitalization and the digital economy, the nation hopes to seize opportunities that will, in turn, grow the Malaysian economy, that we are able to compete on a global scale. And on another note, MyCC is currently working closely with the government and its agencies to increase transparency and accountability in the public tender process to eradicate bid rigging that are draining the government's funds. MyCC has recently started to work with MACC to carry out two-pronged actions: to investigate bid rigging, which are usually made by acts of corruption. MyCC is now in the process of amending its laws. One of the key amendments is to improve a merger control provision. The purpose of this merger control is to review any proposed merger and acquisitions that will potentially lessen the competition in the market substantially. We hope that this amendment will be passed in the Parliament soon, as it is estimated that mergers and acquisitions, or M&A, activities will increase double-fold in the post-pandemic landscape. The merger control provision power is important to ensure that the market is not too concentrated and action can be taken to those who are taking advantage. This will lead to a vibrant economy with low concentration in the market. In a recent report, the World Bank stated that in order for Malaysia to achieve high income status, national competition policies need to be strengthened to promote competitive markets. And I am confident that MyCC is up to the task, as they have been actively since mid-2019, engaging with various parties, including government agencies, stakeholders, academia, industry players, as well as international competition agencies, to effectively enforce the competition law for the new economic sectors. Together with MyCC's contribution, we are moving closer to the government's aim for Malaysia to become a regional leader in the digital economy and to achieve inclusive, responsible, and sustainable socio-economic development. Ladies and gentlemen, the revealing of this new logo represents a huge milestone for MyCC. It is not only a symbol of achievement in the past 10 years, but also represents a new beginning towards ensuring that the competition law will continue to be enforced and that awareness about healthy competition will continue to spread throughout the nation and beyond. I can see that MyCC still has a lot of potentials to be unearthed, and we have yet to see what they are truly capable of. And I can honestly say, on behalf of the ministry, that we are very proud of their achievements thus far. I hope that MyCC will become more visible and relevant to the public as a trusted authority to protect the process of competition in the market. In light of this, I hope that we will expand so that we can continue to deliver good work and create more achievements in the future. I am confident that MyCC can establish itself as one of the main drivers of the economy and be recognized alongside other established agencies. And before I end my speech, I would like to reiterate again that the ministry fully supports all of MyCC's effort in promoting competition in the market. I believe that in the past 10 years, the work of the MyCC has been essential in maintaining the public trust in the ministry. 5 years from now, we want to see MyCC become even stronger and better equipped in dealing with the challenges of the ever-evolving economy. On behalf of the ministry, I conclude by underlining our wholehearted commitment to work together with the MyCC ever more closely as we look forward to the next 10 years of MyCC. Without taking any more time, I want to congratulate MyCC once again on their 10-year anniversary and to wish them further success in the future. I wish you all a pleasant day and thank you for your kind attention. Happy anniversary, MyCC.
Saya Ismail Sabri bin Yaakob ingin mengucapkan selamat menyambut hari ulang tahun ke-10 Suruhanjaya Persaingan Malaysia MyCC.
Saya Hamzah Zainuddin, Menteri Dalam Negeri, ingin mengucapkan selamat menyambut hari ulang tahun Suruhanjaya Persaingan MyCC yang ke-10.
I wish you all a pleasant day and thank you for your kind attention. Happy anniversary, MyCC.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good day. Firstly, I'm Dr. Wahid who would like to congratulate MyCC for reaching the 10th year anniversary. You certainly deserve a grand celebration for all the good works you have done and the contribution you have given to our country. As a Deputy Minister of Domestic and Trade Consumer Affairs, I can attest to what a good job you all have done. So once again, congratulations on your 10th year anniversary. May MyCC continue to prosper for many years to come. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good day. Congratulations to MyCC on its 10th anniversary and the introduction of its new logo. You have done a good job. I'm sure there's more to come in the future. Thank you.
Happy 10th.
Tahniah MyCC atas ulang tahun ke-10.
Congratulations and many happy returns on the 10th anniversary of MyCC.
Tahniah saya ucapkan kepada MyCC sempena ulang tahun yang ke-10.
What you have just witnessed was the launch of the new face of MyCC. Before the roundtable session, let me introduce our moderator, Dr. Madeline Burma. She is a member of the Commission MyCC. Her past publications and research specializes in the field of development economics, which includes areas of poverty, inequality, rural development, women development, and marginalized communities. She was awarded with 3 distinctive recognitions, which are Pingat Ahli Bintang Kenyalang, ABK, Sarawak Women and in Education Special Award, and Tokoh Wanita Sempena Hari Pekerja, QPAX. At the upcoming session are esteemed panelists, Associate Professor Dr. Hanif Ahmad from University Kebangsaan Malaysia's Faculty of Law, Dr. Wan Katina Wan Muhammad Nawawi, Director of Economics, Malaysia Aviation Commission, Dr. Engineer Andy K.H. Seo, Vice President of FMM Logistics Committee, and Mr. Rasul Butt, Senior Executive Director, Hong Kong Competition Commission, who I believe will be joining us virtually from Hong Kong. After the roundtable session, there will be a Q&A session where you can participate in as well. Following the Q&A, we will be showing a recording I had the honor of doing interviewing the CEO of MyCC, Iskandar Ismail. But right now, please watch what Emeritus Professor Richard Wish from the School of Law in King's College, London, on what his perspective on MyCC is. Enjoy the sessions.
Hello, my name is Richard Wish, and I'm Emeritus Professor of Law at King's College in the University of London, and my professional career has been devoted to competition law. It's now 10 years since the Malaysian Competition Commission came into being, and I wanted to send birthday greetings to the organisation, to the chairman, to the chief executive, to the members of the commission, and to the officers of MyCC. I know from experience, having observed this around the world on many occasions, just how much work is involved in the establishment of a successful new competition agency. First and foremost, of course, one has to build the human capital on which all organisations depend. It's then necessary to establish the internal machinery of the organisation so that it is capable of selecting cases and bringing them to decision in an efficient and expeditious manner. It's very important to establish good relations with relevant stakeholders who are interested in the work of MyCC, and these of course include government, the business community, the educational establishment, and last but by no means least, the public at large, who need to understand what it is that a successful competition authority is capable of achieving. Another important aspect of the work of a competition authority is to participate in the broader international debate about competition law and policy. And MyCC, of course, has established close working relations with its sibling organisations in the ASEAN region, and of course participates beyond ASEAN with, for example, the ICN. So I have watched the progress of history in Malaysia for the last 10 years, and I'm hugely impressed at the amount of work that has gone in to establishing a successful competition authority, and I would like to congratulate everyone concerned. So the purpose of this message is to say happy birthday on the occasion of your 10th anniversary, and I wish you very well for the next 10 years.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Madeline Burma. Welcome to our discussion today, the roundtable discussion on MyCC. So we are celebrating our 10th anniversary. So today I will be moderating a session. I have 4 speakers here with me. 3 of them are here. I will introduce them now. On my right is Dr. Hanif. So definitely, if you can see here, Dr. Hanif has done a lot of work with MyCC, and I'm sure he will share a lot of his experiences working with MyCC. And next to Hanif is Dr. Wan Katina. She is with MAFCOM. I will introduce her later, more detail when I ask questions. I'm here to ask lots and lots of questions. And next to me, Dr. Insignor, Dr. Andy. So he is here with us today. So welcome to all of you. So please feel relaxed. We're going to have a very interesting session, and I'm going to moderate it today. Okay, so we will have also Dr. Russell Butt with us, all the way from Hong Kong. So hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. How's the weather there? It's good?
Very fine. It's a bit hot.
Oh, it's a little bit hot. Thank you. All right, so we will start our discussion today. Can I just start with you, Dr. Hanif? So allow me to introduce Dr. Hanif briefly. So if you need anything that you want to explain more about yourself, then please feel free to do so.
Thank you.
Dr. Hanif Ahmad is an associate professor at the Faculty of Law at the National University of Malaysia, or what we call University Kebangsaan Malaysia. So he currently holds another position, which is a very, very important position. He is the deputy, or rather, deputy legal advisor of the same university. He has been with UKM since June 2016. So, Dr. Hanif, there is, I mean, when I came to MyCC, I've heard a lot about the work that you're doing. I've heard that you've been writing a book together with another member of the commission. Yeah? So probably if you can share with us to start the ball rolling. So it's sharing your experience. So basically, in your experience with MyCC, is there anything interesting? How did you first get to be involved with MyCC since we're celebrating our 10th anniversary? So if you can just recall, the first time. Again, all right.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Madeline, speakers, and also I would like to thank MyCC for inviting me to be one of the speakers today. First I would like to congratulate MyCC for its 10th anniversary. I have been acquainted with the predecessor to MyCC, that is the KPDNHP, even before the establishment of the MyCC. That was when I came back from my PhD. I did a short internship at the KPDNHP, the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumerism. And that is when I was first exposed to the body or agency which predated the MyCC. And from there, I have been working closely with MyCC, but of course I have to say that I'm an academic person. I have been teaching competition law for now about 6 years. Okay. And during my teaching also I have engaged, or I cannot say I have engaged, but also I have got assistance from MyCC, especially to provide this practical input to the teaching, the delivery of teaching and learning with regards to competition law. And of course, the other thing that make me very, very close to MyCC is with regards to my research and to some extent the consultancy that I have done. I think that is about all about basically about how I got acquainted with MyCC.
That's very interesting. So you do teach competition law at the university?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right. So that is for undergraduate or for postgraduate?
It's for undergraduate, but for postgraduate there's another lecturer teaching. But that's very, very. I mean, it's amazing experience teaching competition law to students. Especially to our students of law. Okay. Of course, if you want to know about the challenges that I face, I can give a little bit of course, I myself, I'm not an economist.
All right. Okay.
So I'm a lawyer.
Okay.
So that's,
All right, thank you very much. Now, I think before we go to the second round, I would like to, yes, Dr. Wan Kartina. Before we came here, I was asking her name, is it Kartina, Katina, or whatever? And she, of course, she correctly mentioned to me it is Katina. So it sounds very Arabic. But thank you, Dr. Wan. So, Dr. Wan, okay, I think this is the first time we met, but we met online.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
And I've heard a lot about you.
Oh, no.
You're one of these pioneering, as a woman, economics, and then doing competition economics, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
So that is really really something interesting, because at the university, a lot of times we were only teaching about competition, and then not so much with law. Law is something different. So if they wanted to do law, they will go to law faculty.
Right.
If they want to do economics, they will go to economics faculty.
That's right.
Now, suddenly there is this person called Dr. Wan Kartina, the one and only, the first one, who I do not know how to say that, pioneering work. Is a competition and law. So can you please, probably, you're with MAFCOM right now.
Right.
And of course you have done a lot of work on competition with, not only with MyCC. I don't know, you have contributed a lot in terms of research. Previously you were with Khazanah Research Institute, because I do a lot of work with Khazanah because of their poverty and things like that.
Yes, that's right.
Probably if you can share with us, what are the, your initial thoughts about competition law in Malaysia and your experience when you first, when you first get engaged with MyCC, what was it like?
Right. Thanks, Dr. Madeline, for your kind introduction. So similarly with Hanif here, what I've done is that, I've been involved in competition law and competition economics work in Malaysia for quite some time, way back in 2003, 2004. So after I came back from, doing my master's, and at that time, I actually thought that we already have a competition law in place.
Okay.
But I found out later on that we have yet to have the law. They were still drafting the law.
Okay.
And I got a bit excited and I said, more than happy to sort of like help out. So my first sort of like job with pre-MyCC was to basically help out the drafting team to first draft the policy, which was known as the Fair Trade Practice Policy. And then once that was passed in 2005, the drafting team gets to work on drafting the law itself.
Right.
So I was involved just making sure that the underlying economics concept is not lost in the law, because it's very hard sometimes to translate a particular economics concept into law. So I was just making sure that it's there, it makes sense, and all that. And after that, once the law was passed in 2010, I basically was involved helping out the interim competition committee in establishing MyCC.
Okay.
So it's like being a surrogate mother, giving
right.
birth, to the organization. So that was exciting, early days. And then I did quite a bit of advocacy work as well, helping the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs at that time, going around the country. I remembered doing presentations, just getting people to be aware of what's coming, what are the implications of the law, what it would mean to them, and how they should behave afterwards. So that was exciting. And then, once MyCC was established, not long after that, I had a short stint as an economic advisor to the organization. And since then, I've been quite active helping MyCC out, doing training for the staff, for instance, helping them out on competition economics and law, and linking, trying to get them to understand how it sort of like all linked together.
Okay, just short, briefly. Why is competition law so important?
That's the thing. A lot of people would say that free competition itself is the soul of economy.
Right.
People would say that. Unfortunately, if you sort of like have unfettered access into the market, I know players actually, if given the choice, they would actually like people not to tell them what to do, right? Unfortunately, if you let people, unfettered access into the market, some players, not all, some players may behave in an anti-competitive manner.
Right.
So, and this is where competition law is very important. So MyCC then acts as a referee, regulating, making sure that, competition in the market is done in a fair and appropriate way. So, for instance, if there are a few players in the particular market, the law would make sure that these few players would not abuse their dominant position. Right. And then, if, let's say, there are a lot of players in the market, the law would make sure that they would not gang up together.
All right.
And
I like
do
that
naughty things.
Right.
Yeah, do naughty things like, price fixing or lucrative market. So,
Right.
so yes, that's why.
Thank you. That is really very. I mean, in just a few minutes, you kind of give us this, running from what is competition law, and why is there a need for us? Because when we teach economics, there are issues like sometimes you cannot allow the market to be too free. So that will be another. Now we will hear our friend from the industry, Dato' Insinyur. Can you please explain, or rather from your experience working in industry, but before that, please introduce yourself, because I have a long list of your list here, but I know you are the vice president, you are the president, but please if you can share your position today. And what are your views about this competition law? Is it really helpful? Or is it maybe people like Wan Katina and our legal friend here, I think we don't need competition law. So what if I want to be the dominant player? So what? Okay, now I'm provoking here.
Thank you very much,
if you can
Dr.
just
Madeline.
introduce yourself first.
Yeah, I was introduced as FMM, Federation of Malaysian Manufacturer, just now by the MC.
Right.
And also I am the chairman for the FMM Logistic Committee.
Right, yes.
But I'm also the chairman for the Malaysian National Shippers Council. Malaysian National Shippers Council Secretariat is FMM, and FMM, Federation of Malaysian Manufacturer, is a member of Malaysian National Shipper Council, together with another 15 other trade associations and chambers of commerce.
So very powerful member.
Yes, we are actually officially recognized and acknowledged as the voice for the shippers, and we have been established since 1972. So we look into the interests of the shippers, namely the shippers are the importers, exporters, manufacturers, people who are trading as well, and also providing other logistics services. So our work with MYCC has been a lot to do with logistics issues.
Yes.
You know, we have brought out a few monopolistic issues that are regarding shipping costs, shipping costs and all that. Now, what I want to say is that MYCC has consulted us. I would like to congratulate them on their 10th anniversary. Before they introduced this, we in FMM, at that time, I was the chairman for the Small and Medium Enterprise, which is the SMI committee, we call that. And I was the chairman in FMM. At that time, we thought that you know, this is not applicable to the small and medium enterprise.
Okay, it's only for the big players.
Yeah, it's for the big players.
So
we need to control the behavior of the big players in the market. Competition is healthy, and we do not encourage monopolistic deal. We thought that the SMI are not really part of it. So what is important then, we also need to understand you know, this competition, how it will help the industry, and how the small players, which we say will be unlikely to be involved in a competitive behavior, anti-competition behavior, but we feel that if they are under an industry group, they could collude, or like what she said, gang up, right? And then that can form a competitive disadvantage to some industry. So this is where we took the trouble to see what are the do's and the don'ts that the industry should be, not to get into to be penalized by the industry. So FMM then advocates that we, until today, even before we start any meeting, we will then remind our members that we are here to discuss issues, not on, we will remind our members on the anti-competition, the competition law that we have, and also that we are not to discuss on the commercial issues and all that. So this is until today, we are practicing this in our association, you know, like FMM.
But that's what, before you move on, among your members, are they aware of MYCC? Because we do understand that we do have a bit of a problem. Many people don't know MYCC until they, you know, impose a they penalize some big companies. Then it was in the news. Beyond that, nobody really kind of, what is MYCC? So among your members, they are aware?
Yes, we do have training courses, awareness courses. Because in FMM itself, we have an FMM Institute, and also that we conduct talk. At that time when we were consulted, we were already highlighting this to our members. But I came from a background of a multinational, European multinational at that time. And at that time, our company in Europe were already telling us about this competition law many years ahead.
So this is nothing new for you?
Yeah, so when it comes to Malaysia, nothing new for us. Because for us, I work for a multinational, we already know how to behave. So we thought that a Malaysian company can actually take the challenge as well.
All right. right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
That's a very good. So I will come back another round. So now, Mr. Russell Budd, I know you're from our friend. I don't know how far is Hong Kong from here, but I do know that we are, as much as we are at such a distance, we are close to each other here. You are here in Malaysia. Welcome to Malaysia. Thank you very much. Okay, Russell is currently with Hong Kong Competitive Commission. So maybe Russell, what you can do, if you can just introduce briefly. I know you've worked, you have worked really hard to make HKCC. If we call that here, we call it MyCC. So I can just refer HKCC. If you can share briefly the work that you have done. I know you have done a lot of the achievement that you have made along the way and the challenges that you face, in building up HKCC. Yes, Russell, the floor is yours. Or rather, the world is yours now.
Thank you very much, Datuk Madeline. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum to my colleagues at MyCC, and my sincerest congratulations to MyCC for your 10th anniversary. And coincidentally, actually, today is my 6th anniversary at the Hong Kong Competition Commission, so it's a double celebration for me today. So in answer to your question, Datuk Madeline, actually the Hong Kong Competition Commission and MyCC, we share a very similar path. In that the MyCC, your law, the competition law was passed in 2010, whereas the competition law in Hong Kong was passed in 2012. And very similar to MyCC, after the passing of the Competition Act in Malaysia, you gave the business sector 18 months as a grace period for them to review their business practices and then for them to change their business practices which do not comply with the new Competition Act. Whereas for the competition ordinance in Hong Kong, we provided our business sector with 24 months time for them to review their business practices and similarly to do some adjustments to their business practices to make sure that their business practices will comply with the new competition law. So in terms of the development of my commission, again, we are very similar with MyCC in that at the very beginning, of course, when you have a new competition agency, the first thing you need to do is you need to build up the capacity of your staff members because competition law is a very new thing in Malaysia as it was in Hong Kong. And you have to build up the expertise within your organization. And the thing about competition law is it's not just about knowing the provisions in the legislation. Competition law is also very much about economics, as Katina mentioned earlier. So it takes quite a bit of time for us to build up our internal capability. But of course, in the case of Hong Kong Competition Commission, we are quite fortunate in that we are able to recruit people, experienced people from overseas to come and join us. And they occupy some strategic positions within our organization. That helped us have a rather quick start in terms of our work. So at the very beginning, when we focused on advocacy, we in fact looked a lot towards MyCC because MyCC started its work way before us. And you have done a lot of great work. And in fact, I have with me, and I hope it can show on the screen, this is a booklet prepared by MyCC quite a number of years ago. And this is the one which I showed my people in my advocacy division and asked them to emulate. Because the great thing about this particular publication of MyCC is it has such a strong Malaysian flavor in it. I mean, you have these cartoons, you have these durian sellers in this. I mean, these are things, information with such a strong local flavor, and we need these to attract the attention of our local people. Because if we just take the publication of overseas organization like OECD or ICN, it doesn't actually attract the attention of people that much. So it's very important for us to develop our own publication with our own distinct local flavor. And after we focus quite a bit on advocacy, we started on doing enforcement work. And this is where we divert a bit from MyCC, because MyCC follows the administrative model, whereas we have a judicial enforcement model. And we have been in operation, and we have been doing our enforcement work for 5 years by now. And luckily, we have achieved quite a number of success, and that is quite similar to MyCC. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. That's a very interesting sharing. I've heard a lot about the work that you are the things that you do with MyCC. I never realized that durian cartoon is one of those that really attracted you. Thank you for sharing the what you call the local flavor, and we are happy to know that you're doing very well, and then that you have learned a lot from MyCC. This is the kind of collaboration that we need, I think. So thank you. I do hope after the, all these border controls, I do hope to see you here in Kuala Lumpur. Thank you. Okay, now let's go to the second part of our discussion, okay? Stay on, Russell. Okay, Dr. Hanif, now you've been working with the university for quite some time, so I'm looking at you as an academic. So, from your experience and from your years of research, what do you think of the competition law in Malaysia? Where is it right now? I mean, I've heard how Dr. Wan was saying that it was a very exciting year. And then we've heard from Dato that, the things that they have heard about it many, many years even before it started in Malaysia. So I think I understand when Katina said it was a very exciting year. So I would like to know, what about now? Is it as exciting, or at the universities it's business as usual, or have you merged with Faculty of Economics to teach that? Because I do not know, you'll be teaching in the Faculty of Law somewhere, don't know where, and another Faculty of Economics is teaching microeconomics. So how do you work with the other lecturers from the Faculty of Economics?
Okay, I work with a faculty member, economics faculty member, but unfortunately not from the same university. I'm working now closely, for my research.
Okay.
Now, what I can say here with regards to the development of competition law, especially in the academia, in the law school in particular, we are facing challenges because, law students are very much, confined to knowledge of law. They are not very much friendly to economics or even pure social sciences knowledge. So when the students go out, when they practice, and this is, I see, the main challenge that we are going to face. Because, they are used to all the concepts under the law. And law and economics for competition law is like, traditional Malay kuih, is kuih talam,
Okay.
It's like, 2 layers, you cannot separate it. Right, you separate it, it is useless.
All right.
Then, when you go to the courts, the lawyers have to make themselves familiar with the concepts like, supply and demand and things like that.
Right.
And then I still remember when I'm still teaching my student, when we talk about determination of market definition, and then all these, tests like SSNIP and things like that, and they say, Doctor, can you tell me how it works? So I feel like, I'm going to do this, inshallah, but I haven't done that. Right. I may think of bringing them to a mall, and then now you experience it yourself.
Right.
How, for example, when you go to a particular grocery, what is the product? So this is the problem faced. Okay, for the students, I think we are producing a generation of lawyers who will be more, I would say, more familiar with the concepts of competition law and economics. But then there's another problem. Our Competition Act is very much influenced by EU law.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, and I have to say that, competition law is considered to be taking away some of the freedom of their corporate clients. Because some of them will be working in big firms,
right,
and they will have corporate clients. And, the normal working of a corporate lawyer is, if there is no problem with the contract, then you have to perform the contract. And then suddenly, if let's say there's a problem with, there's anti-competitive, like, Katina said about, the issue of cartel, the issue of collusion, the issue of unfairness. And then, they will have this, the thing that they have to think about. If let's say they don't take that course when they are in undergraduate level, they have to think about, taking it at a master's level. And, when they practice, we cannot discount, the role of the judges. Decision of MyCC will go to the court. Right. Will go to the Competition Appeal Tribunal, and then we'll go to the court. And how the court interpret the principles. Can the court interpret the principles? Because our Competition Act, I don't want to say that it is short. But, our Competition Act has to be read in the light of the rich, they call jurisprudence, the case law of the EU. So how, this is the thing, how the law will progress. And I can see that, I have to commend MyCC for taking quite a bold measure in, incorporating all these, cases. And now it's up to, to the lawyers, including my students, who have to be ready with, with their knowledge of economics,
Right.
or else, we will have a kueh which cannot be enjoyed.
All right.
Thank you.
That's a really nice way of putting it. First we hear the durian, and now we hear the kueh. This is really not a good timing, Luckily we had a very good lunch, sponsored by MyCC, of course, before here. Okay, thank you very much. I think this, like you say, there's, some challenges that need to be addressed. So probably this is something where the universities, in terms of your designing of your curriculum, sometimes there is a tendency for us to kind of be living in our own world, just teaching subjects as it is without, like you say, looking at the reality on the ground. And here we are, the practitioners, on the other hand, are also not engaged with the universities that much. So I think this is really something that we really need to look forward to, maybe in the next round of audio. Now, Dr. Wan. So what else can you tell us about when you talk about competition law, you as a practitioner, in terms of reviewing, the kind of work that you are doing now with MAFCOM, and there is some similarity with what we are doing. So how does it, there was the exciting years, how do you rate it now? Is it as exciting, or there are more challenges, or there are more things that need to be done, and there's something that you can share with MyCC?
Okay. It is still very exciting when I'm on this side as well. And it's a different kind of excitement, because you finally get to apply what you have been sort of like taught in school years before. So in that sense, you get to see it alive. And, for my team, because we do competition work as well, so the younger members in my team, they find it like, oh, Kak Tina, we never know that supply and demand is actually very relevant. And I'm like, yeah, sure, of course, So this is I just find it very interesting how, all this while, it makes you think that all this while, there is that sort of like people tend to sort of have that separation between what they had studied with what they're doing. And so what's interesting about competition economics is that you actually get to apply what you learn during your O levels or A levels up to your university level in real life. And it is challenging in the sense that it's still quite a new thing in Malaysia. So it's not just for us, what matters is education and advocacy. So, at the end of the day, what we need to do is to basically make sure that, we educate our industry players very much so. So I do that. And then we actually had done in the past, advocacy program, education and advocacy program to the journalists as well, because, when they need to write on these issues, they need to understand what goes on, behind the law. So they need to appreciate that. So, so we do quite a bit of advocacy work through our basically literature publications. So we do publish technical papers, we do publish position papers, advocating what we think competition law is being implemented, how it is being implemented, at least for the aviation services sector. So it's quite similar to MyCC as well.
So our market reviews, so in your opinion, it is very important?
It is extremely important, because I think it gets it allows for the competition agencies such as MyCC to appreciate the particular sector that you're studying, right? So you get to appreciate the market structure, how the players behaving in the market, or how they perform. And in some instances, it is so crucial. It actually is very important, because it could lead to the amendment of the law. And an example that I would like to give is in the case of Germany, whereby some years back, the competition authority had actually undertaken market review on digital markets. And what they found is that, their law at that time, there were gaps in terms of applying the law to that particular sector, digital markets. So they basically, after that, what they did was to amend the law to make sure that they close the gaps, address the issue so that they be able to enforce the law and address any anti-competitive conduct or behavior arising from the behavior of the market players. So it is very crucial.
So it is. So you've seen MyCC have done its own market review. So is it important to customers? I mean, ordinary people like me.
Of course. I think, so this is the thing, for Malaysia, I hope that, we actually, we always complain about our lack of reading culture, right? So I hope that, consumers would take the time to basically go to the MyCC website, have a read through the market reviews, because I think at the end of the day, consumers, you must be smart. You must be vigilant and you must know your rights. And I think, having the market reviews, reading through reviews on, say, the food sector, for instance, and those are for basic necessities. So you're able to appreciate how the law is there and how the law could protect you as a consumer. So that matters.
I think, thank you. That's very important because I remember there was one of the market review, the issue of, during our CMO, our, what do you call it, during the PKP. So how does it affect, in terms of our logistics and things? Now, when you talk about logistics, we can't help but talk about Dato'. Katina, Dr. Wan has mentioned just now about this market reviews and the industries and everything. In your opinion, now that you are in the industry, MyCC have done. No, I mean we are in the papers. I mean MyCC are in the papers because of some big, some big companies have been. Well, I don't know how do you put it. Taken action against some businesses. So do you think as an industry player, how do you see this? Do you think that businesses are responding to it? Do you think that they are if we are to do this, this is what is going to happen? We were talking about just maybe small consumers, but in terms of industrial players, do you think that is a very important point?
Yeah, today I think that 10 years down the road now, most of the industry, especially SME, right? Besides the big player, we all know that we need to understand and be familiar with this competition law.
Right.
That is a start. Whether you are in trading or professional services or as a supplier, so we must prohibit any of this practice, which we have said very clearly. And recently, as you know, MyCC has done quite a few big cases.
Yes.
Even they have taken up a case which we have brought out on the depot gate charges in Penang.
Right.
And they've been very successful because we say that the depot gate operators have been colluding, when one of them set a price, the next few days, another one agree, also release the same price and all that. So over the period, I think after that, they know that how to behave, I would say that, right, when they have been punished. Right?
All right. So the competition law really, you can see that as an industrial player, it does. Okay.
Because what the industry will recognize, right, like the depot gate operators, is that this behavior is illegal.
Right.
For them to collude, for them to set pricings.
It's very clear. Right.
All right. And pricings that they set were not small prices. They used to be 5 ringgit, now it's 35 ringgit, example, per container and all that. So recently, they have gone up to 38, which we are also protesting.
Okay.
In fact, we have taken this up with MyCC also on the land side charges by the shipping line, where the shipping line has been adding charges that has nothing to, that doesn't justify that.
Okay. All right.
So we have brought that issue out. And also because shipping lines are quite dominant in nature, right? The ship owners, and if you don't use their ship, you don't use theirs, we will not also release the container to you. So they also have this demurrage and what they call storage charges. It's during the MCO period, a lot of the companies were hit because they could not collect the containers during the MCO period, and then subsequently the Ministry of Trade realized that all containers in the port needs to be moved, otherwise there'll be congestion at the port.
Right, yeah.
And whether the containers, the goods are essential, not essential, they have to be moved.
Right.
All right. So, but during this period, some of the shippers, the importers, have already incurred demurrage charges and storage charges.
Right.
But so if they all imposed high charges at that time, all at the same time, then we feel that they are actually very dominant in their position in that. Right. So we also realize that this fight in bringing up by the commission at the same time, right, also helps our industry. Help us to realize that that this hefty penalty can actually deter us. A lot of the companies they feel that compliance to the competition law, there is also what I call appeal tribunal.
Okay.
Should they make a mistake or whatever?
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So the big cases, as you know, the MAS Air Asia case is a good test case.
Right.
Dagangnet, it's another test case. Right. But I don't understand why MOF give them another 3-year more contract. That is something that it is quite strange, even though they have been in that position. So similarly for Grab, that is really a very big case.
Very big case,
that actually is quite clear some of the issues that we look at, right? Because of they are dealing with MyTaxi and
right.
Grab. Yeah. So these are the cases which I think will set some good people to really sit up and pay attention about this behavior.
Right, yeah. Thank you, Dato', because I remember when my Grab is, of course, because it gets down to the ordinary people. When you talk about shippers and things like that, maybe only the small and medium enterprises and those in the industry are away. But the moment Grab was slipped, everybody was asking, wow, what is this thing? Meaning to say that, that the government or the relevant agencies are doing their job. So I think MyCC just somehow overnight, everybody kind of know what MyCC is all about. So that is in Malaysia. So that's good to know that. So we do hope that more will be coming into MyCC to show that there is recognition for the work that is being done. Now that is at the local level. We've heard how the industry recognizes, I've used inverted comma. Some people may say, no, we do not recognize, because some people may not like competition. Of course, they want dominant position. But, well, Russell, I would like to get your opinion. Now, here, the three of our Malaysian friends here are talking about MyCC from a Malaysian perspective. Now, from your experience and from the work, you showed us that nice little booklet that you have just now. But from your experience, and I mean in dealing with competition law and things like that, in your opinion, what do you think about, from your perspective, the things that MyCC have been doing? How do you evaluate, or how do you see, are there challenges that you think that is MyCC going through the right direction, or I think we are in maybe 10 years, nothing much can be done? That kind of, how do you see that from a person who is in Hong Kong, from an international perspective? Russell.
Right. Thank you, Dato', for your question. Now, when I look at the cases which are being handled by MyCC, I would consider the selection of these cases. It reflects that MyCC is a strategic, competent, and ambitious commission. Why do I say that? Because I do see the cases which MyCC handle. There is a good mixture between cases which are more local focused, as well as cases which have an international dimension to it. For competition agencies like MyCC and the Hong Kong Competition Commission, the ultimate judge of how well we do are the public. The public needs to recognize that the cases that we do are relevant to them. So when you look at the cases that MyCC selected and pursue, for example, some of the cases, some people may think, well, these seems to be small cases. But I think it's very important to acknowledge that even though some cases may be smaller in scale, it doesn't mean they are not significant, and it doesn't mean they are not relevant to the local people. The example I would give is the case concerning the local bakeries and confectionaries association. Now, that particular case, I think it is significant and relevant to local people. It is precisely because it's talking about bread and butter issue. It's relevant to the local people, price fixing of those products. Now, at the same time, apart from these local focus cases, the MyCC also take on big cases like the Dagang Net, the MAS and AirAsia market sharing case, which I understand there is an appeal going on, and the next court date will be on the 27th of April. Now, this particular case, I think from an international perspective, a lot of other agencies, including the Hong Kong Competition Commission, we are watching very closely how this case goes, because when it comes to the aviation sector, a lot of jurisdiction, we also have very developed aviation sector, and we are all very concerned about anti-competitive conduct happening in these important strategic sector. So I think from an international point of view, when we look at the cases being handled by MyCC, I think MyCC is definitely taking the right approach by pursuing some cases which have a strong local flavor, even though they may be considered to be a bit small in scale, but also some significant ones like the Grab, and as well as the MAS and AirAsia. And of course, I also noticed recently the MyCC is collaborating with MACC to look at possible bid rigging in government procurement. Again, this particular initiative is a very important one, and competition agencies around the world are very concerned about anti-competitive conduct happening in public procurement. And again, this particular initiative of MyCC will be closely followed by agencies around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. That's a very interesting observation, especially the word on government procurement just now. That is really something that we are looking forward in the near future. I think this is something that I would like to bring up to both Dr. Wan and Dr. Hanif, because about for the future, what is MyCC's role in terms of our future direction. Hanif, you are working with the university. How do you see, or rather, what do you, the kind of amendments, or rather, in terms of the curriculum, the things that we will be teaching at the university? Because you were saying that you're trying to even, probably may even use the word, drag your students to the market, and even maybe go to and visit our Dato' here.
They prefer the mall.
They prefer the mall, not the shipping, because there's a bit full of ships and everything. Okay, as an academician, what kind of changes do you foresee, in terms of our the kind of subjects that will be taught in terms of competition law? Do you see any move towards making changes to the curriculum or the way things are being taught? Because everybody said after COVID-19, everything is is what we call is a white canvas. You can just do anything. So it's a level playing field. So for the new curriculum, maybe we can't be teaching the same thing like what we have been teaching, or doing the same thing that we have been doing. So I would definitely ask that also to Katina, but maybe amendments to like new laws, like what Russell was mentioning just now about bid rigging, and also maybe that too later. So maybe for the future of MyCC. We have about 40 minutes to go.
Okay, for making changes is the norm for competition law. For teaching competition law, I have to update my notes every semester, because the cases. That's why sometimes I have to burn the midnight oil, to look at the cases. Right. And then when the cases go to went on appeal, then we have to see again. We have to make changes. Okay, when it comes to the curriculum, I think competition law is quite recent. I mean, it's quite a new. I mean, it's a new kind of course being introduced. So the main changes that I think need to be done is, of course, the networking. Not only between lecturers. I have my own network with those in the industry, as well as with those teaching competition law in Thailand, in Indonesia. But now the network has to go down further to the students. So of course we are thinking of maybe the students need to do internship with Dato', for example, at your firm. Yeah. It's very important. And also the students need to be like assessment, this is another thing. And I have the experience of, trying to embed kind of simulation, into the way I assess my students, where I ask them to, as if, they are now working in the MyCC, so they have to do the investigation. But I tell you, it's time consuming because we have to do research. So in the end, what I do, I have to also bring my students to do their research, because we have dissertation, do their research on topics which now concern what MyCC is doing.
Right.
I have to tell you that, one of my students now is doing a research. His dissertation is, analyzing decision of MyCC in Piam. But I have to tell him that Piam case, be careful, you have to make sure that, you are not making decision in advance.
Right.
And of course, you can criticize. That is where, we have to draw the line between what the students can do and what the students may not do. Okay, and finally, I see here that, the students themselves, we have to ask them to give back to their community.
Right.
I have a student who did his dissertation on the funeral services among the Malaysian Chinese, and it was like very, very amazing that he did study into the sociology, the culture of the Chinese, and in the end, he said that there's a lot of things that we have to do, but of course, it is not us in the university who will be taking it up. It will be like something which can be proposed later on, maybe at the undergraduate level. They study at the postgraduate level.
Right. What are your thoughts on the the merger control provision? Do you think that is it beneficial to the country? And as we transition into digital economy, what are your thoughts on these little? We are towards the end of our. If you can give some thoughts.
Merger control is something which will have huge impact on the business of our on the economy, the Malaysian economy, because Malaysian economy is interconnected. It's very international.
Right.
We have a lot of companies coming in. I'm looking at if we want to introduce merger control, is the enforcement. I think Dr. Wan Katina will be will be explaining that. But in terms of giving to the students that this is the thing that I think some changes have to be done also to the what they call the delivery of some courses, for example, securities regulation, because in the end we are not sure whether it's the MyCC who's going to take it up, or maybe the Securities Commission who is going to take it up. But in the end, what I can tell you that because of the merger, not only merger regulation, merger control, but also the whole competition law, normally the students who come to me and then want to take this subject will say that, I can see, sorry to say, I can make a lot of money. I can make a lot of money after this. In fact, I was like very, very happy when, one student said that, I have already given some advice. What? Advice? Be careful. You haven't graduated yet. But they can see, the future of the course.
Right. Thank you. That's really very interesting, because I used to serve at the Faculty of Economics. I don't know anything. I don't even know there is a course being offered at the Faculty of Law. So this is where the silo mentality in our academic system, or rather in our education system, you teach what you need to teach. So you teach law. Then you have difficulty, like you say, your students trying to understand supply and demand. If you ask about my student, they only know the curves, when they intersect, when they determine the price, until and when you know the reality. So that's why I said Dr. Wan Katina is very fortunate because she is a marriage of both, but of course she's also a surrogate mother, both competition, economics, and also competition law. But your background, is it economics or is it law, or both?
Both now. So I started as an economist.
Okay.
So I was a macroeconomist in my early life, and then I moved towards doing regulatory economics and competition economics. And in between, I did trade stuff as well.
Oh my God.
But what's interesting about merger is that, it's one of those provisions in the law that actually requires a lot of economic analysis. So you have to have trained economists who also would appreciate how the law works. So it's not enough for you to be an economist, but you also have to understand how the law works. And that can be quite challenging. And this is something that I think MyCC would need to be aware of, and would need to basically, in terms of its training of the staff, for the merger work, it needs to make sure that the staff would appreciate how economic analysis is done within the legal context.
Right.
Yeah. And the problem is that, it's like going to an exam. You can always prepare, doing hypothetical cases and all that, but you never know whether you're ready until you see the questions. So in this case, until you see the cases, right? So, until then, it'd be quite interesting for MyCC. MyCC needs to get ready.
Right.
Yeah, that's very important.
What about in terms of MyCC, in terms of bid rigging? Just now we heard about bid rigging. Now that's an interesting topic.
It is. It is.
Do you think MyCC has a role, a very important role?
Definitely, it has a role. It is actually even in the law, it is a per se, a rule against it. Bid rigging is bad for society. In terms of taxpayers, you would have to. Government would actually use a lot of taxpayers' money unnecessarily because they actually overpay to these people who had undertake bid rigging, and for the rakyat they may not get the value of money.
Right.
So that's bad all around.
Right. Okay. So that's a very important point. We heard from an academician, a surrogate mother. I like that. All right. But you're one of the best in the country. So we're very fortunate to have you here today. Now, Dato' Eddie, now this is the real practitioner on the ground. So someone from the industry. How do you think the market will react if mergers control regime are being introduced?
Well, as we know, there are over 130 countries that have
already
now, right?
Yeah.
Have merger control laws already, so this is nothing really new.
But maybe only for Malaysia.
Only for Malaysia, yeah. I think this will also allow MyCC as a regulator or whatever to be able to review in advance an M&A that is about to take place,
right.
whether it has any significant anti-competition competitive effect on the competition itself, you see, especially the, on the transaction that are to be implemented, right?
Right.
So before any transaction deals has to be done, it is good to check with the regulator whether there are any such anti-competition, competitive behavior or monopolistic, especially as we mentioned, right? Like I come from the manufacturing sector, competition law to us, right, will help to remove any artificial and anti-competition market disadvantage, because why? We want to be competitive, and we also want to make sure that our cost of doing business, especially in Malaysia, is low. It's competitive lah. That's the whole thing, and it shouldn't be imposed only by the big boys. Whether you can work in the market. I do a lot with the SMIs because almost Malaysia, in FMM itself, almost 70% of our members are from the small and medium enterprise as well, industry. So they also want to enjoy a lower cost of inputs, isn't it? Yeah. And they also want to have a more competitive environment to work with. So this is very important. Now, coming to the merger control, compliance issue is very important.
Okay.
All right, you don't want at the end of the day spend so much money on due diligence, and then realize that it doesn't work well in Malaysia if you're not careful.
Right.
All right. Then all the time are wasted, costs are wasted, and the frustration, and it is not fair to the business itself. You see, so it is good to check on this, but then also that in this country we also have dominant and monopolistic businesses and cartel-like. Which are actually companies that are in concessions, for example, concessionaire especially the public utilities, like energy, electricity, gas, sewerage, water. You see, these are the basic amenities of, all right, but yet, we still have monopolistic and.
Do you have any suggestion? How do you think we should?
I think we should emulate some of the country where, for example, like distribution of electricity can be by different party. I think that the Energy Commission can actually look into this. Right. For example, transmission, generation of electricity and power can be by one party, and then transmission and distribution can be by one, right? Okay. And then maintenance can be. So in this area, it's not one person that, one group that. And it's the same with water. We are always constantly having water issue where Malaysia rains like hell, right? And floods like hell,
really
right? And are we efficient or not?
Right.
See? So I think we need to review all these things. Today, there are a lot of people who can actually provide those services. So the government need to review whether this is a strategic issue or not. Because when competition law was set up, they wanted to say that GLCs and some government agencies are exempted, and we say that, well, SME should be exempted as well, because they have no voice on that. Yeah. Okay. So that is our view. Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, Russell, we have like another 3 or 4 minutes to go. I would like you to. You've heard about the amendment plan by MyCC. I hope you have heard about that. So, how do you see MyCC in 5 years' time? What is your hope for MyCC? Because you're such a good friend of MyCC.
Right. Thank you. In terms of the amendment plan, the introduction of the merger regime, I think it's exciting times for MyCC because I think earlier on, Katina also mentioned, it's having the power to do merger review is not easy. You have to equip your staff with the necessary expertise, and they have to build up the experience to do it. In the case of Hong Kong Competition Commission, we still haven't got merger review power. I think in our case, it's not a matter of whether we will have merger powers, it's a matter of when we will have it. But for MyCC, once you started on merger review, I would be very interested to seeing in 5 years' time where MyCC will be in terms of the distribution of work. Because right now, I think MyCC's focus very much so is on the enforcement side of things. So when you have merger review, in terms of the allocation of work, how much will it be in 5 years' time? Because the thing about merger review is it takes up a lot of resources. And I think for a lot of agencies, when they first started, and particularly for agencies which have merger review, a lot of the time and resources have been spent on the merger side, resulting in less focus being put on the enforcement side. So hopefully with this introduction of merger review, MyCC will also receive correspondingly more resources, maybe from the government, on helping them to do all these merger review. And I think with the introduction of merger review to the MyCC's portfolio, I think MyCC will definitely become a more rounded and more comprehensive competition agency, and definitely an agency to look at by other agencies around the world. And I look forward to fast forwarding and seeing MyCC in 5 years' time. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Okay, thank you very much. I think you're very hopeful about the way, or rather seeing the role of MyCC in Malaysia's economy. Okay, I think that's a very interesting. I think we have another few, we have been given an extended time for our discussion. So probably what I can do now, maybe if there is anything that you think that you want to share, so we'll go for another round, okay? So 5 more minutes to each one of you. If there is anything that you want to share that I may have missed out, and you want to kind of think about as Malaysia, in the future, post-COVID era, how do you see the role of MyCC in terms of it as a to, like you say, to monitor competition in Malaysia, the challenges probably as we enter the digital era, the post-COVID, new things are happening. So maybe if you can just share your thoughts. Katina, yes. Dr. Katina, yes.
Okay, I think for MyCC, obviously the amendment is key.
Okay,
so
number one, right.
You have to get that right. You sort that out. And then the next thing that is key is to basically make sure that you have all the relevant resources.
Hold on. Why is the amendment really very important? For ordinary people first.
Okay, so basically at the moment, as I think a lot of people would know, but some may not know, may not be aware. We do not have, for instance, a big one, merger control,
Right.
So we do not have merger control provisions yet in our Competition Act.
All right.
So for MEFCOM, we actually do have merger control provisions in our law. So it is a very important basically provision to regulate ex ante, to regulate before the transaction happens, like what Datuk Andy had mentioned. Because I think, it's like this, if you want to basically make an omelette, or if you want to do eggs for your sort of like, clients, let's say you're the chef. If you did not if the person did not ask you or tell you how to do it first, then that would be a problem, because you just assume, let's say the person's, you think that the person would want an omelette, so there you go happily making an omelette, and then in the end the person say no, I just want hard-boiled eggs. So it's really hard for you to unravel that, right? So it's the same thing with a merger transaction. It's really hard to basically unravel a transaction when the companies have integrated. So you would want to catch something if there is a potential substantial lessening of competition to occur. So you want to catch it before it happens, rather than after it happens, right? Although there are provisions under MyCC, under the Competition Act now, abuse of dominance, you could actually still go after them, but then you have to wait for the for the conduct to occur first before you could go. So that's ex post, and that may take a long time, and then probably by then the consumers are all affected and all that, right? So a good example of that would be the Uber Grab case, right? So you could only catch them after it happened. And that is before the amendment of the law. So that is why we need to do that. And I think there are a few other things that MyCC also intend to do in terms of its amendment, just making sure that all the other provisions are streamlined and consistent with the current market development. So that's very important. But with all these new powers, there would be greater awareness of competition in the market. There would be a lot more cases, and I think MyCC would need a lot more resources. And I think it's very important for MyCC, the government, to actually consider sort of like allowing or giving more resources to MyCC, especially staff.
Human capital.
Human capital, trained staff. It's not just anybody, but people who are trained, who are who have the right capacity and capability to undertake the work. So it's very important to do that. Yes.
When you mention human capital development, give three, for example, the kind of staff that MyCC may need. Legal person. No?
Definitely legal, a lot more economists. I know that you do not have as many as what a good, a sort of like a strong competition authority would have. So you would need to have that, in the future. And then somebody who are also, of course, legal. And then, you've got all the other divisions as well, I know, in MyCC, like, your strategic planning people, your communications team, those, to some people, and even your management services, because to some people, they may say that, oh, those are just supporting casts, right? But at the end of the day, as a team, you need to have all these people to work together, because the communications team, they are important, because they do educational work, they do advocacy work. And that's very key, because you want to create that awareness, and for you to have that awareness, you actually have to have people who could communicate. And then you have to have the strategic planning people there to plan for the organization, and the management services people to basically make sure that the organization would have the right people to have the right IT services, for instance, because after COVID-19 we know that working online, that's key.
It is really
So now you have to make sure that your backroom operations, your IT system is all integrated to make sure that everyone can work even when they are not in the office.
That is very important. Probably before I come to you, Dato', Dr. Anit, can I just check with you, Dato'? As a practitioner, you deal a lot with MyCC. What are the things that, from your perspective, that something that MyCC should improve on? Probably in your dealing with MyCC, that you could have said, oh, maybe MyCC could have done this better. So probably this is where an area that MYCC can look into, so that we can, as we move into the new digital era, as we move through the new post-COVID, so maybe there's something that you may want to suggest.
MYCC has been quite good in engaging the public and the private. So they have done what you call public-private consultancy.
Right.
So that is very important. And also sometimes they might not be expert in the subject matter.
Okay.
For example, like maritime issue and logistic issue. But nevertheless, they have tackled the issue on the one that we have recently on the block exemption orders on liner shipping services, where shippers like us objected on this BEO, on voluntary discussion agreement. So we do not want the shipping line to be colluding on the shipping charges and all that. In the beginning, and then also at that time, also to fix their own pricing and also to decide their services. Right? What is very important is the price, services, and all that. So they have now discontinued on the VDA, we call that, right? Voluntary discussion agreement, but they still have on vessel sharing agreement. Vessel sharing agreement is just like code sharing of airline, where ships are available. Okay, this is okay as long as they don't fix the pricing and all that. So because sometimes not all the ships are available, but some ship may have better space than others, just like the airline code sharing. So this is now continued. But what is important is that we also request that under this block exemption on this vessel sharing agreement, we would like them to put a statement in there, like this: upon request by any transport user of any information concerning pricing or tariff of the liner shipping services or the structure and service level of the liner shipping services under vessel sharing agreement, a liner operator shall make available such information as one of the conditions for the VEA. So they must make sure that the information are available. Yeah. So in anything that we would like to is more engagement. Even any regulation that is to be introduced, we would like them to respect what the cabinet has ruled out, that under good regulatory practice, right, you must do a regulatory impact assessment. Test it with the public and private sector, whether we all agree or not. Yeah, most of the time, a lot of regulations are rolled out without a consultation, and that get 3 steps forward, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and then you get criticized. So, but I realize that MYCC have done that consultation, and if they are not familiar with the topic, they outsource or they get a consultant to help them out.
Yeah.
But this is very important to us. Yeah.
So, from your experience, so MYCC have kind of responded to the needs of
not necessarily the shipping line, because I mentioned is because shippers importing or exporting, right? It's part of also a manufacturing cost.
Right. Okay.
Right. And we want to make Malaysia a competitive and also place for people to invest in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Having such a competition law in this country actually enhance the image of the country as well.
Right.
We are showing that we have integrity in the way we conduct business.
That's a very important point, yeah.
And then we are transparent, we are honest about, the way we conduct business. So that will dispense so much of having to later investigate under MACC and all that, if you could deal with this for a start.
Like what Katina was saying, not doing it after, there will be another messy job. Yeah. I like the idea about this, the cost of doing business that you mentioned earlier, because that's one part we are really struggling with. Nowadays we have a lot of what we call all the indexes in the world. So we will be, the way we're still quite far in terms of what we call the cost of doing business. We look at.
But World Bank ranking, the latest one, Malaysia is 12th position out of 190 economies.
So still not too bad.
12, out of 190 countries, right?
Yeah.
So that speaks volume for Malaysia.
Because in the old days, we used to have one of the, what we call, we were struggling. I remember teaching in university, my students will be asking, why are we so far behind? Of course, they mentioned our neighbor. nothing else but our neighbors. So, but now let you say, so, but of course they are under indexes. But okay, coming to Dr. Hanif, what do you think?
I see the future is because now, I think MyCC, has to be, the voice of MyCC has to be heard by other government ministries.
All right.
Because, I want to pick up on what Dato has already said. Okay, about cost of doing business. Okay, now some of the companies are struggling because we have the minimum wage. And now some of the companies are very much, relying on foreign workers. And now we have having, foreign workers not coming in because of the MCO and things like that. At the same time, post-COVID, I see there will be there will be changes, in how business are being conducted. There will be a lot of, a lot of investment into human capital. And we have to, we have to make sure that, our own people benefit. Okay, that's why to me, MyCC has to look into the interrelation between, competition and also labor. The issue, for example, Uber and Grab and also Foodpanda, for example, sorry, Uber and Grab, sorry, I'm not mentioning anything. E-hailing industry, for example, what is the position of the drivers? What are the position of those, are they workers, are they employees, Okay, things like this, I think require some research being done, and that's why I think more collaboration between universities and MyCC as well as other regulators, and of course like what I have already mentioned, some of those who have already been brought to so-called before MyCC, they say that they got they are approved, they got approval from the government. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So we have like 2 minutes to go. Russell, your thoughts on the future for MyCC. What are the key points that you think, if there is one point that you can suggest to MyCC to make it even more relevant in the future with the new economy coming up?
If I can just pick up on what Dr. Andy mentioned earlier about these regulatory impact assessments. In fact, for the Hong Kong Competition Commission, we have been advocating our governments to conduct these competition impact assessments on the new policies and schemes which they came up with. Because the thing is, in any given market, sometimes the reason why a certain market may not be functioning very competitively, it may not be because people engage in anti-competitive conduct. It could be structural issues. And sometimes these structural issues may be the result of some government policies or government schemes. So more and more, we have been cooperating with our different government departments and public bodies in Hong Kong when they are at the early stage of conceiving their new policies and new schemes. They would do a competition impact assessment to try to consider whether their new policies and schemes will have an adverse impact on competition. And if so, can they find an alternative way to reduce this impact on competition? And I think this is something which MyCC can think about, because similar to the initiative to work with MACC to safeguard public procurement against bid rigging, this idea of doing more competition impact assessment on new policies and new schemes, I think it will really help MyCC's position vis-a-vis one of their biggest stakeholder, and that stakeholder is the government. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Russell. That's a very good suggestion for MyCC, something to look forward to. So can we just stay on for another few minutes, because we have the Q&A session. I think there's a few questions coming in already, so just bear with us. Oh, let me see. I'm getting some questions from the floor. Thank you very much for the response and the questions here. Now, question number one to all my panelists here. So, okay, number one, in general, why the public and the industries are not well aware about the competition law? So is this the fault of MyCC? Is it the fault of, lack of, what do you call it? Lack of being discussed out in the open? Or is it because it is a legal thing, so people just couldn't be bothered? Maybe we can, if any one of you would want to respond. Who wants to respond first? Why is it? Why do you think the public is unaware? I know all of you are aware, but why? Okay, maybe Dr. Hanif, why do you think? Your opinion?
I think because of the culture, even the business, the culture, because here we have, the business, they have their own culture. I think Dato is may agree with me, because they have been so long into the business, and we see that if let's say one group or maybe one family or one clan, they are already in business, the others may be just consumers.
Right.
So from the consumer perspective, they may think that competition law is just like any other consumer protection law.
Okay.
Is to protect consumer, and then they started to think that if let's say MyCC is not working for reducing the price, then MyCC will not doing their job, whereas the competition law is to protect the process of competition. So to me, that is the public. Normally when they are consumer, they just think that, okay, I want more, I want cheaper product, so MyCC has to play its role.
Okay.
So I think the law is, of course, we have to accept the fact that even not only competition law, other laws, the public is not aware.
Maybe it's too technical.
Yep.
Even someone like me, when I start reading this, all these lines, and I say, oh my God, this is only good for the. That's why I really admire Katina, when she can do both economics and law. So what do you think? Why do you think the public and the industry? But Dato said that the SMEs were quite aware, very aware, because of the education. But in your opinion?
I just find it an interesting question, because I thought that there is a greater awareness now in competition law. My first thought is that, it's not a sexy subject.
Okay.
I have to say, right? It's competition law. What the hell is all that about, right? So, but then, as what Hani was saying, it goes the same with any other law. It's just that I think, Malaysians tend not to be aware of a lot of things.
Okay.
And this is something that I think we need to sort of like work to change. So probably, starting with having a curriculum on the importance of competition in the market.
Right.
So you have that right way in school.
Right.
Why competition is very important. And then after that, you slowly introduce the concept of, actually we have, the rules and regulations to make sure that that competition process is being protected in the market. Right. I remember a long time, but this is quite a while ago, when, I was working in Khazanah and all that. There is not so much of awareness, amongst the GLCs on competition law, but I think if like what Dato' Andy had mentioned, if you're already working in international space, right, international markets,
right,
you definitely be aware the existence of such law. So when the government said that yes, we are going to introduce and enforce similar laws in our country, they should know what it is all about, and they should be aware. It's just that probably in terms of the details of it, they may not be aware of. So that's that.
So this is the public, but the industry, other than your members, do you think that the general SMIs are aware of it, or for example, the hawkers on the street, are they aware?
Of course, the very micro enterprises, they have not. Some of them, the traders and all that, they are doing domestic trade. They might not feel it.
So it doesn't really
So
affect
Malaysia itself wants to be a global player so we sign a lot of FTAs and all that, RCEP and all that.
Yeah.
So we are actually a very competitive nation.
All right.
All right. Wherever we go, we also bargain like hell, right? Pasar malam, you're already at rock bottom price.
Right.
But I feel competition is healthy.
Right.
All right. We shouldn't have monopolistic, because monopolistic way of doing business will stifle or kill our industry.
Right.
So we must think about our survival.
Right.
Our survival have to be collective. Now, if we think about the punitive side of it, right, where we get fined 10 times and all that, that is one deterrent itself. But a lot of people will say, I will know how to get myself out of it. So education should start from school, college, university, and then the industry should constantly remind. The association, trade association, should keep promoting this. MyCC plays a very important part to remind, the public. I like that just now. We have seen the booklet and all that.
Yes,
I still keep them, and I think that they are very informative.
Good.
And today they are already made it very simple for local to understand. There's not so many technical terms.
Right.
Right. The whole idea is, at the end of the day, we want to fight abuse against dominant position. We want to fight against imposition of unfair trading position, conditions, right?
Right.
And so we want to have a more efficient and a modern way of doing business.
Right.
So that is the only way to move forward. We are guided by this competition law.
Very good, because we I mean, if you look at government policies tend to be, you tend to favor something over someone over another ethnic, or you favor an industry one. So I think with competition now, we are learning to realize that it is the way forward.
Yeah, when this started, I remember meeting the Hong Kong gentlemen and all that. They came, and I was so surprised that being a British colony at that time, after they've been under British rule, they would have got this ahead of us.
Right.
And Malaysia was the one that was...
We should learn from them, brother.
But that shows that at that time, Malaysia was very forward-looking. We want to be competitive in doing business. We want to be transparent with our dealings.
Right.
All right? And we put it very clearly. And there were also do's and don'ts. And those are very well way to behave.
That's good. This is really something. Now, Russell, what do you think, Russell? Probably being in Hong Kong, it may have a different view. I mean, having what you have been going through in Hong Kong for the last how many years? There's a lot of, I know what is happening out there. So what about the awareness of the public in Hong Kong about competition law? Is it similar to what it is in Malaysia here?
Well, I think in the case of Hong Kong, there is growing awareness of competition law. But the thing is, of course, being the principal competition agency in Hong Kong, it is our duty to educate the public on competition law. But the thing is, in order to get through to people of Hong Kong, and to be very honest, the people of Hong Kong are not very known for their patience. So we have to find the best way to communicate messages to them. So, I mean, we started off using these simple pamphlets, and then we realized, I mean, we print a lot of these pamphlets, but people basically are not very interested in reading them. So we started producing videos and we started engaging these well-known TV personalities to star in these videos, and we made sure these videos are short enough, maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes, to explain in each episode a key concept like bid rigging, market sharing. I mean, we have gone through a lot of trials and errors, and I think we have come up with a pretty good formula to try to get the messages along. I think more and more people are becoming aware of the main provisions of competition law, and there is an improvement. And also, we also started targeting people in schools, the young people, like secondary school students. We will organize these competition, and also the university students, because these youngsters, they will enter the job market in future. And I think it's very important for us to ingrain in them the importance of competition and the benefits of competition. So when they enter the job market instinctively, they know there are certain things they cannot do, because if they do it, it will be against the competition law. So these are some of the things which we have been doing. But of course, I think nothing illustrates competition law concepts better than actually bringing cases to the courts. And when you have these penalties which are meted out by the courts, or in MyCC's case, because you have an administrative system, when the fines are high enough, a lot of people will sit up and start paying notice. But probably that's not the most ideal way of getting the message across. But nevertheless, that's the reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell, for sharing the kind of work you're doing to promote competition law, even, like you're saying, So maybe in the industry, Dato', I'll just ask you, how can, in one word, what is the best way to encourage people, or rather to introduce people to how to promote competition law? Okay, if I were to ask you, in your professional view, how should MyCC improve in their approach to educate, create awareness, and to promote the importance of competition law towards the public, especially the industries, including government sector?
Yeah, I think we should engage and involve and communicate whatever we have as often to the industry. Engage with the industry. Sometimes a video has been played many times, nobody really look at it and play in a TV channel. But occasionally, you should get industry to buy in. And today, using internet and all that, all right, we can have website and And actually, MyCC can push some of this to some of the chambers' website where members serve their website to look for business information and all that. They can link into MyCC, you know.
Okay.
So that will be one good area to promote. Just now mentioned education, start young, you know.
Right.
Because I don't think the industry would like I used to travel with my lawyer when we have trade industry meeting, so that my lawyer will make sure that I don't get into trouble for the company, what I say, you know, and all that. So this become very inconvenient to do business.
Okay.
We have to keep reminding that every time when I attend a meeting, my lawyer must come along.
All right.
So this is cost of doing business again.
Okay, very good.
It's not that I don't want a lawyer. It's extra service to pay, yeah.
I like, that's a real businessman. Now, Dr. Wan, can I get your views on what about the role of the government? I know, how should the government help to support MyCC mission and vision? What do you think?
I thought what Rasul said earlier was very, very insightful in the sense of, you know, having that competition impact assessment, the CIA.
Okay.
And, you know, in whatever, so in the case of government, in whatever policies that the government thought of introducing or implementing, they should actually do, apart from, you know, your normal regulatory impact analysis, you also do something similar on the impact of that particular policy on competition.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a very good. Okay. Question number 4. Why are we not employing or promoting market competition as means of consumer protection? Oh, that's a very long one. Often the public, I can't read that. Often the public pronouncement by the ministers and officials that, I think this is too long a question. What is actually the, can we just move on to the next question? It's too long. I don't think. Oh my goodness.
I think
what was
I can answer.
You can answer. Okay. Well, what is that? I can't really.
I think it has something to do with what I said just now.
Which
because
is?
you know, the consumers say competition law is to protect their interest in the sense that, you know, they will get low price.
Right.
Okay. But you know, after being into competition law for more than, you know, for more than 5 years, I can see that, you know, competition law is not about, you know, lower price. Sometimes, you know, companies, they are, like I've already said, companies are struggling. They are struggling because of, you know, higher price of raw materials. Labor is an issue because Malaysian labor cost is very high. And because of that, we cannot compete with our neighbors, particularly Indonesia and Vietnam. So now, to me, I can't say that, you know, we have to like make a departure from what we have done already, because our law is very much influenced by the EU. So what is happening in the EU may be a guidance to us, but at the same time, we cannot just follow blindly the EU. And number 2, I think is regarding, I agree with what Rasul said, that sometimes the problem is not because of anti-competitive conduct. It's not, but it's because of structure, which is caused by government policy.
Right.
Now, there should be more harmonization between, you know, this, you know, a multitude of government policies and also laws. And to me, when go back, actually, I want to answer the question about the professional as a professional. To me, going back to the role of lecturers have to experience how business is being done. So this, of course, is tough.
Right.
It's tough because, of course, I have to thank my MyCC because the classroom program is very, very useful for my students.
Good.
But now they have to like get some. I need to get some help from Dato'.
Of course.
Because, you know, Dato', I need help, you know, for
industry.
from the industry, and then tell my students, you know, how the industry works, so that when they go out, they can take a more balanced view about competition law.
Right. We really cannot be, you know, working in silo nowadays. You know, the world that we live in. You know, like Dato', you had experience, like you said, you know, because of his experience with multinationals. That's why he had that view. And of course, Katrina, because of your work. You know, so I think that's a very important
But
point.
there must be a caveat because you know, of
there's
course,
a caveat.
Because business, of course, there are a lot of things like, you know, confidentiality.
Of course.
Because sometimes that's why I sometimes a bit cautious with my student. I say that, you know, there are things which you can't be exposed to.
Right.
Because sometimes, you know, students being students, I'm not saying that they are not mature, but they have to be very careful. I mean, we have to be very careful so that, you know, they are not jeopardizing, you know, the business.
Yeah, that's good. That's a very important point that you raised there, you know.
Well, we
of course,
need
there
to
is
go
a
back
caveat.
to our objective of why we want this competition law. We say that we want to promote economic growth. We want business.
Businesses.
All right, by promoting and protecting the process of competition.
Right.
All right, I got it with me there. By protecting the interests of consumer.
Right.
The man on the street like me want to buy it competitive
Right.
also.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
true.
expect you to produce for me competitively and don't fix the price.
Right.
Right.
That's basically.
Exactly. So we have to go back to our main objective of why we want this competition law.
Right.
Right. I think it's very good. We describe it very well. We want to do business. We want to make sure that it is the man on the street can buy our goods competitively,
Right.
and we assure that.
Yeah.
You know.
Because we used to be so worried about competition. You know, the way it's been ingrained in the Malaysian mind, competition is negative. You know, it's not good for competition. That's why we need the government to protect us. We need whoever to need to. But now we live in a very competitive world. You know, you cannot survive just by relying on always on the government. So I think that's a very important point just now.
But we also need now to review that there's some sovereignty authority by the government. Where certain GLCs, right, shouldn't be competing with industry.
Exactly.
So it is maybe high time that some, which we have been doing under Pemandu Lab before,
right.
where there's some companies, government procurement should be excluded in the activity and all that.
Right.
So we need to review some of this again as time goes on.
I think that's a very important point, Dato', because, and also we need to teach, or rather educate our society that competition is not, you know, we used to think that it is a bad thing. You know, it's competition is bad. So even in business, they said, oh, now we already have persaingan, so it's not good. You know, it's a mentality. But now I think slowly people are realizing that actually competition lowers the price, increase quality, efficiency. So that's why we need it.
Service performance is also better.
Yes, yes. Right. So,
we want,
so I think now they know that if you allow only one or two companies to dominate the market, you know, you can't get the services. So they allow competition. So that's very important. Now, Russell, there's one question that I would still need to ask you. How does the merger control provision can benefit the industry?
Well, in the case of Hong Kong, as I mentioned earlier, we actually do not have a cross-sector merger regime right now. But as I also mentioned earlier, it's not a matter of if we will have a merger regime. It's more of a matter of when in Hong Kong we'll have a merger regime. We do feel it is important for an economy to have a merger regime. And I think looking at different jurisdictions, and Khatina earlier on has also mentioned, it's beneficial if in many instances if you have a merger regime, you may be able to prevent certain undesirable things from happening. So I think it's very good that Malaysia is heading in that direction, and hopefully with the sufficient resources to back up MyCC in this respect. And I think in the long term, it will be good for the Malaysian economy.
Good. Thank you very much. I think that's a wonderful, or rather a very good discussion today. So I think we had a very fruitful discussion, 1.5, I think more than 1 hour, right? Dr. Hanif, thank you very much for your insight as an academician and how you try to bridge the academia and the industry. So that is a really, the important message that I got from our discussion today is that there is a need for us to come forward, so how you can work closely to make us understand better what the world is like in the future, you know, especially to our students. And Dr. Wan, thank you very much for sharing your experience and your surrogate motherhood. I love that. You know why? Because you know, you put because I always find it really mind-boggling. Missing, like you say, it's non-sexy. Economics is such a dry subject, and law is so technical. And suddenly mixing it up, and she said it is an exciting years. So thank you very much for sharing. You know, and of course there's a lot of things that we can learn from you. And I know you have given a lot of your expertise to MyCC as members of some of our, you know, providing inputs. Also, Dr. Hanif, thank you very much to both our speakers here, and Dato', your experience in the industry and your insights. I think it is very important for MyCC, you know, to understand, not only to understand, you know, the comments that you made, the kind of things that what MyCC should and need to do for future, the things that you mentioned just now, because as you mentioned, your members and also the SMEs are there. So what we need is a country that is, that is competitive to bring Malaysia forward. And like you mentioned just now, we are number 12. So we want to improve further. We can't be always being measured against our neighbors. People now are always talking about Malaysia, but never look at it. Malaysia has been successful. And our dear friend, our dear friend from Hong Kong, MyCC, good friend, Rasul, thank you so much for your insights and providing us with the international perspective. You have given us what we call, not only you know what Malaysia is like, and at the same time you have the experience of being in Hong Kong and having a different, or rather a different way of looking at things, maybe as an outsider, if I may say. But the fact that you've been to Malaysia and you still keep MyCC book, that is really, really very important. So with that, I would like to conclude our roundtable discussion today. And I would like to say thank you to our 4 speakers, our 4 panelists, and to MyCC, I would like to say happy 10th anniversary. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Thank you. Thank you.
We have seen the launching of MyCC's new logo and the roundtable discussion with the competition law experts. So now, if you allow me to close with me asking you some questions with regards to what happened today. The previous discussion was very informative and insightful. Now we understand what MyCC looks like and your responsibilities in making MyCC as a trusted agency in protecting the process of competition. So do you have anything else to share, or perhaps your hope for MyCC after an impressive 10-year run?
Actually, 10 years is a very short time. But we have improved leaps and bounds. Over the 10 years, we have, I must say that we have achieved quite a lot. But it's just that we want to make it known to the public, especially the consumers, that we are working for their interests. So for this 10th anniversary, as you can see, one of the highlights is to introduce the newly improved logo of MyCC. After 10 years, I think it's the right time for us to make some changes to MyCC itself. MyCC will continuously change itself to improve, in order to improve, to contribute to the development of the economy through the process of competition that we need to protect. So the logo signifies, last time if you notice, our logo is somehow very small, in a way that it signifies changes and maturity of MyCC itself. So we have a bigger MyCC alphabets in the logo itself, and then we hope that people can easily identify MyCC after this. Because logo plays an important role in any organization. It embodies the culture, the colors of the organization. So we thank the government, especially the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, for their support in this matter. For our achievement, Kevin, we have done quite a few decisions, especially decision against cartels and also abusive monopolies. And we hope that it will be a deterrent factor against cartels to be out there, and warning to the monopolies so that they can, we hope that they can act in line with the laws that we are promoting. But in the end, it is the consumers that we want to protect, because if we protect the consumers, we can guarantee that the development of the economy shall continue as usual, and maybe will improve leaps and bounds, because the consumers is the soul of the economy. I must say, competition policies and laws are one of the main factors that can drive the economy of any nation forward. So what we did for the past 10 years is that we have issued a lot of decisions against cartels. We have issued decision against abusive monopolies. We have advised many government agencies with regards to the competition policies and laws in their regulation. And we have carried out advocacy programs all over Malaysia. We talked to the consumer groups, we talked to the industrial groups, we talk to the stakeholders such as the legal practitioners and whatnot.
Do you have anything to share, or perhaps your hope for MyCC after a very impressive 10-year run?
These 10 years embodies the achievement of MyCC. We started as a small agency with less than a dozen of officers. But along the way, within these 10 years, I think we have achieved quite a lot. Yeah. Now we have a set of young and energetic officers in MyCC taking charge of the issues that is very important now. Today, 1st April 2021, as the mark of what we can say is that newly improved MyCC2 is logo. We didn't change too much of the logo. We didn't change to a new logo, but we improved our logo. It means that we want to tell the public, we want to tell the consumers and the stakeholders that MyCC have improved. Yeah. So the first step is through the logo. I hope everybody can accept that logo and maybe like the logo, so that we can present our changes to everyone in the industry. Yeah.
So based on the session earlier today that was being discussed by the experts during the roundtable session, so what are your comments on the session?
Oh yes. The topic is about MyCC past, present and futures. Yeah, we have chose carefully the panelists. Yeah, one is from the universities or from the academicians, and then one is from the industry players. The other one is from our friends from Hong Kong. What we are trying to present here is that they notice the development of MyCC from a small agency to what we can say is that MyCC is that I think they realize that MyCC has shown its maturity. It takes time for any agency to mature. Yeah, it's understandable, but it's just that what we have achieved so far, we believe that it has changed the landscape of the public policy. Usually the government, in dealing with the industry, they will take into account only the industrial policy. Now they somehow accept the competition policy, so that whatever policy they created, it must not be anti-competitive in nature. Because if you are anti-competitive, you put the elements of anti-competitive in your policy, it will have this negative effects on the economy, on the investment. Yeah, so somehow it will put off the consumers. Yeah, because the consumers must be protected. They must be guaranteed three things. They must be given competitive pricing, they must be given choices, they must be given quality products and services. And we verily believe that competition policy can guarantee that. Yes, industrial policy plays a lot of role, but with competition policy, it completes the policy of the government. And the government will get the benefit because it will drive the economy very quickly towards the goals that they have targeted. Yeah.
So what are the upcoming plans for MyCC, and where do you see MyCC in the next 5 years?
Okay, we have started this exercise. We are amending our law. Okay, one of the core amendments that we have set sight on it is the introduction of a new power, mergers and acquisition regime. You see, we are the only country in Southeast Asia, to be honest with you. We are the only country in Southeast Asia that does not have that power, merger regimes. It's very important, merger regimes to be, the power to be given to MyCC, because as you can see, there's a lot of mergers acquisition taking place in Malaysia right now, even all over the world, that have effect in Malaysian market. Last time people suddenly got surprised when there's even a proposal by Telenor and Axiata to merge, because Telenor has interest in DG and Axiata has interest in Celcom. So it created these queries amongst even the government side, because what will happen to the telecommunication sector if these two giants merge, So if MyCC is given the role, if given the power to scrutinize the mergers, we can assure that to the public that the merger will not lessen the competition in the market. Last time, recently, I think 2 or 3 years ago, Malaysia was somehow taken aback with the exit of Uber in the market. Remember? Yeah. So, and then at that point of time, people are so used to the presence of the two e-hailing companies in Malaysia, that is Grab and Uber. When they merge, it somehow caused these worries among the consumers, and we receive a lot of complaints due to this merger. And because we didn't have the power to scrutinize the mergers, we couldn't unscramble the eggs. So Grab became the supra-dominant e-hailing company in Malaysia. Of course, there's a story after that. We investigated Grab, and then we have issued a proposed decision against Grab, and now is being at the stage of we are listening to their representation or their defense. So we'll see how in maybe in about I think this year, I think we will issue the final decision if time permits. With all these COVID-19 pandemics that somehow limits our movement, I think it may take a bit longer for us to arrive to that decision. But we have, of course, that is the core issue. But at the same time, we want to improve the powers, the function of MyCC at the same time through the amendments.
Last question, perhaps you can tell us the story behind the hashtag Bebas Kartel.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We had this program also. So we had to, a few years back, we had to come out with this hashtag Bebas Kartel. So what we want to achieve, you see, a lot of our decisions is in relation to cartels. 80% of it, 80% of them are on cartels, because cartels, to me, are the supreme evil of competition law. If you want to equate it with penal code, it's as worse as murder. It's daylight robbery. Yeah, it takes away people's hard-earned money. So that's why we want to target cartel first, because cartel is a group of unscrupulous traders who agreed amongst themselves to fix prices, so that they can enrich themselves only, and the consumer will face the burden of paying more, and you have to pay to inefficient player in the market if they are part of the group. So it must be eradicated. Of course, it's a monumental task to eradicate cartels. Even in Japan, they have this competition law in 1947. Since after they lost the World War II, okay, they promulgated the law. Up until today, they are still fighting with cartels. So, but we are just being optimistic here. So that's why we put bebas kartel, hashtag bebas kartel. Hopefully one day, Malaysia is free from cartels.
So thank you for that, because as a consumer, myself as well, and for the consumers out there, this is a very good policy and done by MyCC, and I hope it will take off in terms of protection for all the consumers.
Yeah, inshallah. We'll do our best. Yeah, and we always do our best.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Calvin.
Thank you. Was that a rehearsal?
No, I think we have to act casual, something like that. Yeah. Oh, maybe I say hi to you ke apa ni? Boleh buat lagi sekali tak? Can we take another show?